The Legend of Jigong, Chapter 97.
So let's start in the dust, outside a small tavern in Changshan. The scene opens with a character who possesses, frankly, one of the greatest nicknames in the text.
Oh, the small god of wealth.
Yes,
Yeah.
the small god of wealth, Zhu Rui. But the text immediately undercuts that grandiose title. He doesn't look wealthy, and he certainly doesn't look godly.
No, the contrast between the nickname and the physical reality is very deliberate.
Right, because he is recovering from a brutal, cowardly attack. He was struck with a stone by an accomplice of our primary target, the universe-stealing mouse, Hua Yunlong.
And again, you have a small god and a man who steals the universe. These titles suggest this mythological scale, but the author aggressively grounds us in visceral, ugly reality.
Yeah, Zerui isn't radiating divine energy. He is literally coughing up blood. He's resting at the door of this tavern, surrounded by acquaintances who are, urging him not to overexert himself.
Which establishes him as a man of influence and connection in Changshan. He's deeply embedded in the local social fabric, but he's currently trapped in a very frail human body.
Exactly. And that grounding is so crucial because the mundane nature of the scene just shatters the second the tavern door opens.
Because out strolls Hua Yunlong.
Right. The universe-stealing mouse himself, just casually walking out of a public tavern as if he doesn't have a massive bounty on his head.
It's incredibly bold.
It is. And Zhu Rui, despite coughing up blood, instantly clocks him and screams for the arrest. Enter the two linen constables, Chai Yuanlu and Du Zening.
And their entrance is defined by pure, unadulterated exhaustion.
Yeah, they confront Hua, and the text emphasizes their misery. They explicitly state they have tracked him all the way from Linen, quote, braving frost and dew.
And that specific phrase, braving frost and dew, carries so much weight. It serves as the thematic anchor for the constables.
Because it isn't just poetic, right? It means they have been sleeping in ditches, freezing, just wearing themselves down to nothing for this one arrest.
Exactly. It represents the grinding, unglamorous physical burden of serving the state. Chai and Du are the physical manifestations of the law, and the law is exhausted.
The law needs a nap.
It really does. It's weathered by the elements. And when they confront Hua Yunlong, they immediately attempt to leverage the weight of the institution.
Right. They state their names, they declare their jurisdiction from the Linen Prefectural Yamen, and they demand his surrender based on official orders.
They are operating under the assumption that the sheer gravity of their official titles will just force compliance.
I have to challenge that assumption, though. I mean, are they really relying on their titles out of a belief in the system, or is it just pure desperation at this point?
That's a fair question.
Because Hua Yunlong's reaction exposes exactly how hollow those titles are. The man exhibits a level of arrogance that is almost hard to process.
Oh, his reaction is chilling.
He looks at these two battered, freezing cops, and the text describes him giving a micro smile. He casually confirms his identity.
And then he delivers that incredibly cinematic line.
Yes. He says, sure, he'd willingly go to court to fight the lawsuit, but he has a friend who won't agree to it. And the constables, totally confused, ask what friend he means.
And Hua replies, far away it's 1,000 miles, but close up it's right in front of your eyes. And he slowly draws his sword.
It's such a cool villain line, but it's also just a devastating dismissal of state power, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Hua Yunlong operates entirely outside the social contract. He is telling them that institutional authority is an illusion.
Right. The official warrant from Linen is literally just a piece of paper.
Exactly. The only law he recognizes is physical supremacy. He explicitly states that he will only submit to the justice system if they can defeat the metal in his hand.
Which completely establishes the central conflict of the chapter. It's the rigid, exhausted structure of human law colliding with the fluid, lethal chaos of individual skill.
And it's not a fair fight.
Not at all. The constables draw their weapons, and the text makes a point of identifying those weapons as iron rulers.
Which are essentially standard issue blunt police batons designed for subduing suspects.
Right. Not for lethal dueling. They are squaring off against a master swordsman. It is the tactical equivalent of bringing a heavy stapler to a gunfight.
That is a very apt comparison.
The narrative details the swordplay, and Hua's techniques are flawless. The blade is just flying up and down. Constable Chai is immediately fighting a desperate, losing battle for his life.
And what's fascinating is Chai's internal monologue during this life-or-death struggle.
Yeah. While dodging a lethal blade, his primary emotion isn't terror. It's this deep, consuming resentment directed squarely at Jigong.
Chai's psychological state here is incredibly revealing. He realizes the horrifying disparity in their martial skills, and he recalls the sheer volume of horrific crimes Hua committed.
He knows exactly how dangerous this guy is.
Exactly. Yet his mind immediately jumps to blame. He focuses his anger on the fact that Jigong, their supposed supernatural benefactor, abandoned them just before they stumbled into this lethal encounter.
See, I look at Chai's resentment as entirely justified. We are dealing with an audience familiar with classical tropes of divine intervention, right?
Right, where the hero arrives precisely when needed.
But the author completely subverts this by applying the frustration of a modern bureaucratic workplace. Chai and Du are the grunts.
They are the underpaid detectives forced to rely on the infuriatingly flaky consultant.
Yes, the eccentric consultant who vanishes for days, leaving the regular cops to face the actual physical danger. The text uses a supernatural framework, but grounds it in the miserable reality of bad timing and unreliable colleagues.
That interpretation holds up perfectly. The author is actively stripping away the romanticism usually associated with agents of the law.
They aren't mythical heroes, they're just highly vulnerable employees having a terrible Monday.
Exactly. The text makes a profound point here, which is that the legal system is physically incapable of defending itself against true chaos.
Right. The constables possess the moral high ground, and they have the legal documentation, but neither of those things can block a sword strike.
The narrative constructs a scenario where the internal mechanisms of justice have entirely failed.
Yeah.
It necessitates a disruptive external force to reset the balance.
Which brings us to the most chaotic entrance possible. Just as Chai is about to lose this fight, a voice screams from midair.
And it isn't a battle cry.
No, it's a yelp of terror. He yells, "I'm coming! I can't get down! I'm going to fall to my death!"
The cognitive dissonance of that entrance is the absolute core of Jigong's character. The narrative has built immense tension, right?
Yeah, we expect a display of overwhelming, majestic power to counter Hua's lethal skill.
Instead, the author gives us a frantic display of apparent incompetence.
And the imagery is spectacular. Everyone looks up, and Jigong is balanced precariously on the very top of an apothecary's sky-piercing signboard.
It's this massive, towering structure.
Yeah, and the text mentions he used a, quote, testing magic to get up there. But to the combatants in the crowd in the street, he is just a ragged, filthy monk trapped in the sky, screaming.
The street instantly devolves into a panic. Bystanders are shouting that the monk is about to die.
It literally stops a lethal sword fight in its tracks just through sheer spectacle.
Because it is a calculated piece of theatrical magic. Jigong doesn't just intervene, he forces everyone to stop taking themselves so seriously.
Right, he turns a grim, life-or-death struggle over state authority into a literal circus performance.
Constable Chai, who is still desperately trying not to get stabbed, screams up at him, begging the master to come down and catch the thief.
And Jigong's response is just to escalate the panic. He yells that he doesn't even want his life anymore and is just going to jump.
The crowd gasps, utterly convinced they are about to witness his suicide.
But then the physics of the scene immediately break. He jumps, plummets toward the street, and then violently halts exactly 2 feet above the ground.
He just hovers there in midair.
Yeah, the crowd is paralyzed, murmuring about this bizarre display. Constable Chai, losing his mind, screams at the floating monk to hurry up and recite the spell.
And this is the moment the text elevates the absurdity to sheer genius.
It's so good. Jigong, floating effortlessly, looks at the fleeing master criminal, looks back at the desperate constable and says, "I forgot the spell in my head."
Hua Yanlong's reaction to the forgotten spell is crucial here. The thief actually assesses the situation.
He's doing the math.
Exactly. He sees a monk floating in the air, clearly demonstrating supernatural ability, but who is apparently too incompetent to actually deploy an offensive spell.
So Horakwak calculates that this is his window. He decides to make a break for it, leaping upward, aiming for the eaves of a nearby roof to vanish into the city architecture.
And the pacing of what happens next is immaculate.
Kwa is in the air. His foot is millimeters away from touching the roof. At that exact microsecond, Jigong casually announces, "Oh, I remembered my spell again." Shiling he.
The physical result is instantaneous and violent.
The text describes it as if an invisible, insurmountable force grabs the universe's greatest thief and just yanks him backward out of the sky.
He's slammed into the dirt.
But he doesn't just hit the ground randomly, right? He is dropped with absolute precision right at the feet of the coughing, bleeding, incapacitated Zerui.
And the injured man simply leans over and pins the master martial artist to the floor.
The thematic weight of who actually makes the capture here cannot be overstated.
Consider the hierarchy of power the scene established earlier. Hua Yanlong possessed unparalleled physical skill. The constables possessed state authority and weapons.
Yet neither the sword nor the badge resolved the conflict.
Exactly. The text orchestrates it so that the absolute weakest, most physically broken man in the scene, Zhu Rui, gets the tangible credit for capturing the untouchable thief.
I want to push back on Jigong's methods here, though. Why the charade?
What do you mean?
Well, why terrorize the crowd, string the constables along, and wait until the absolute last possible millisecond to strike? If he has the power to yank a man out of the sky with a thought, isn't he just being needlessly cruel to Constable Chai by letting him fight a losing battle?
It does seem that way, but
It feels less like enlightenment and more like a cat playing with a terrified mouse, you know?
the cruelty, or at least the deep discomfort he causes, is entirely intentional and serves a philosophical purpose.
Okay, how so?
Jigong's enlightenment requires the dismantling of ego. By executing this absurd sequence, arriving on a signboard, pretending to forget the mantra, and gifting the capture to a sick man, he systematically humiliates every single party involved.
Ah, I see.
He strips Hua Yunlong of his martial pride, proving his deadly sword is useless against true power. He strips the constables of their institutional pride, proving the state cannot protect them.
So if Jigong simply swooped in and captured the thief efficiently, he would validate the constable's reliance on him as a tool of the state.
Exactly. By making it a farce, he forces them to recognize the fragility of their entire worldview.
That makes the backstory the text provides immediately following the scene so critical. The author doesn't let us just view Jigong as a prankster.
No, we get a sudden flashback detailing exactly where he was before the signboard incident.
He wasn't out drinking or sleeping. He was at the Lingxiao Taoist Temple on Wuxian Mountain, engaged in quiet, painstaking medical work.
He cured two men, Lu Tong and Kong Gi, and then moved to another courtyard to heal an old Taoist priest named Lu Miaotong.
He only arrived at the tavern after completing this hidden, deeply compassionate labor.
It creates a necessary dichotomy. In private, dealing with ordinary human suffering, Jigong is diligent, compassionate, and highly effective.
But the moment he steps into the public sphere, specifically when dealing with arrogant criminals and the rigid mechanics of the justice system, he adopts a persona of chaotic madness.
The madness is a highly calibrated weapon used specifically against institutional hubris.
Which transitions us perfectly into the aftermath of the fight, where that institutional hubris immediately reasserts itself. I call this section the bureaucracy of credit.
That's a great name for it.
The fight is over. The legendary universe stealing mouse is pinned to the dirt by a sick man. Constables Chai and Du rush forward with their iron chains, but they freeze.
Suddenly, they are navigating a political minefield.
Right, because technically, physically, Zhu Rui caught the bounty.
It really highlights the obsession with credit within the legal hierarchy. The constables approach Zhu Rui with immense delicacy.
They drop the desperate, exhausted demeanor and reinstall their official personas.
They state their titles as horse catchers from the Linen Prefectural Yamen, acting on official orders. And they essentially plead with Zhu Rui to reward them by allowing them to secure the prisoner.
They need the paperwork to reflect their agency.
Exactly.
Zhu Rui, thankfully, couldn't care less. The text points out his magnanimous nature. He just tells them to go ahead and lock the guy up.
So Chai pulls out the chains and binds the master thief.
And this is the moment Jigong decides to be the most agonizing presence in the universe. While they are securing the chains, Jigong leans in and says, "Great joy to you two. You caught Hua Yunlong. Go back and report the fulfillment of your duty and get the 1,200 silver reward."
On the surface, it reads as a standard congratulation. It's polite.
Except he doesn't stop. Constable Chai replies, "Aren't you happy for us, master?" And Jigong says the exact phrase again, "Great joy, you get the 1,200 silver."
It's so awkward.
Chai tries to respond again. Jigong repeats it a third time. The text explicitly notes that Jigong repeats this precise sentence, specifically hammering on the exact monetary figure of the bounty 5 separate times.
The repetition becomes absolutely excruciating to the point where Constable Chai breaks down and begs him, "Master, let's go. Please stop talking."
The deployment of repetition here is a brilliant piece of psychological warfare.
The constables want to view themselves and want others to view them through the lens of their earlier statement, right? Noble servants braving frost and dew to deliver justice.
Exactly. I look at Jigong here like that friend who finds out how much money you make and loudly announces it at a crowded dinner party.
Yes. It is deeply uncomfortable.
He is aggressively calling out the financial incentive driving their supposed heroism.
He's forcing them to confront the transactional nature of their duty. By repeating the exact number, 1,200 silver, 5 times, he strips away the veneer of noble law enforcement.
He ensures that everyone present and the constables themselves understand that they are not just agents of justice. They are bounty hunters securing a massive payday.
He embarrasses them by exposing the economic reality underlying the state's moral framework.
And once he thoroughly humiliates them, he immediately bails. He tells them, "You go to the yamen first, I have to use the bathroom."
The most powerful being in the province excuses himself for a toilet break.
It's amazing. It forces the constables to take the prisoner to the formal courthouse on their own, setting up the legal drama, while giving Jigong an excuse to pursue a separate agenda that we'll dissect in a minute.
The transition from the chaos of the street to the rigid formality of the courtroom is jarring, but very necessary.
The spatial transition is vital. We move from the tavern, a place of public gathering and chaotic violence, into the Changshan County Yamen, which is the seat of local government power.
This is where the theoretical order of the law is supposed to assert itself.
So let's examine that supposed order. Magistrate Feng is presiding. The constables haul the chained Hua Yunlong in. They present their official sea capture warrant from Linen, and the interrogation begins.
And what happens next? Completely shatters modern expectations of a criminal trial.
It really does. The magistrate asks the thief his name and his alias. Hua Yunlong doesn't flinch. He proudly states he is the universe-stealing mouse.
Then the magistrate asks for a confession of his crimes in Linen.
Now, you and I, we expect denials. We expect the plea deal. We expect silence. Instead, Hua delivers a horrifyingly candid, meticulously detailed resume of his atrocities.
The confession is staggering in its lack of remorse. He isn't confessing because he's broken by the system. He's actively bragging.
He catalogs everything. He proudly admits to an attempted rape and the murder of a young woman at a nunnery and slashing an older nun who tried to intervene.
Brutal.
He pivots to admitting a murder at the Taishan restaurant that started over a minor verbal argument. Then he details breaking into the heavily fortified residence of Prime Minister Qin, stealing a priceless jade bracelet and a phoenix crown.
Look at the diversity of the crimes there.
Yeah.
He targets sacred spaces, public commerce, and the absolute highest tier of political power.
Right. It establishes him as an entity that respects no boundaries, moral, social, or political.
But it's the artifact he left behind that truly defines his character.
Oh, the calling card. Hua proudly tells the magistrate that after robbing the prime minister, he didn't just escape in the night. He stopped, found a whitewashed schwa, and wrote an acrostic poem.
The arrogance is incredible.
The first characters of each line explicitly spelled out, stolen by the universe-stealing mouse, Hua Yunlong. He engineered the crime specifically so that the state would know exactly whose intellect and skill defeated their security.
This reveals Hua Yunlong's perverse, dark integrity. He is undoubtedly a monster, a rapist, and a serial murderer, but he demands absolute ownership of his narrative.
He refuses to hide in the shadows.
He wants his specific genius recognized by the very institution hunting him. And this twisted code of honor is exactly what the author uses to contrast against the behavior of Magistrate Feng.
Because Magistrate Feng hears this catalog of horrors, and his reaction isn't horror, it's opportunism.
He doesn't say, lock him up, execute him, ship him to Linen.
No. He looks at this master criminal who just confessed to capital offenses and sees a way to clean up his own messy spreadsheets. He starts listing local, unsolved crimes.
He asks Hua, didn't you also commit that armed robbery at the pawn shop outside the South Gate?
What about the highway robbery with injuries outside the East Gate? And didn't you break into my jail, rescue the disheveled ghost Yun Fang, and steal 7 official warrants?
The magistrate is blatantly trying to pin his entire backlog of cold cases on a man destined for execution anyway.
This is where the text critique of the bureaucratic state becomes incredibly sharp. Magistrate Feng represents the institution of justice, but he is completely unconcerned with truth.
He is entirely focused on administrative metrics.
But I want to focus on Huai's reaction, because this is where the moral inversion happens, and it is glorious. Hua Yunlong, the serial killer, is absolutely offended by the accusation.
He refuses the local charges.
He tells the magistrate, flat out, I didn't commit crimes in this local area. I don't know anything about these things.
When the magistrate threatens to torture a confession out of him, Hua calls him out in open court.
He says, I already confessed to capital crimes in Lenon. I'm a dead man anyway. But you want me to confess to things I didn't do just so your jurisdiction doesn't have pending cases.
He accuses the magistrate of just wanting to protect his gauze hat.
And the gauze hat, the wushimao, is the ubiquitous symbol of official rank and bureaucratic position, right?
Yes. By invoking the gauze hat, Hua is explicitly stating that the magistrate values his career trajectory and his performance reviews over the sanctity of the law he supposedly represents.
It is the ultimate cynical view of the legal system. The mobster is lecturing the judge on journalistic accuracy. Hua even tries to negotiate.
He really does.
He says, if you want me to take the fall and create a complete case for you, explain it clearly, and maybe we can work something out.
He treats the legal system like a corrupt marketplace, because the magistrate has already proven that it is one.
We have a monster who demands the truth of his actions be recorded accurately, facing a judge who's perfectly willing to fabricate history to secure his pension, who possesses the moral high ground here.
The terrifying answer the text provides is neither. The institutional structure is hollow.
The system is rigged to serve the officials, to protect the gauze hats, rather than to deliver justice to the victims of the pawn shop or the highway robbery.
The magistrate's willingness to use torture to manufacture a convenient lie proves that the state's monopoly on violence is not guided by morality.
Magistrate Feng proves that instantly. Furious that a chained prisoner is exposing his corruption in public, his physical reaction is extreme, his beard and eyebrows literally stand straight up.
He labels Hua a habitual thief who requires a beating.
He orders the guards to drag him down and prepare the torture instruments. The tension spikes again. The violence of the corrupt state is about to be unleashed. But the first blow never lands.
The courtroom doors burst open.
Jigong staggers in, looking like a lunatic, dragging a man with staring eyes right into the middle of the public hall.
The timing of the interruption is vital here. Jigong re-enters the narrative at the exact moment the human justice system reaches its most violently corrupt peak.
He disrupts the false order.
But to understand the significance of the man with staring eyes, we have to look at what Jigong accomplished during his supposed bathroom break. The text doesn't just leave him off screen.
Right, it tracks his alternative method of justice. The narrative flashes back to follow Jigong across the street to the One Dragon Tavern.
He didn't just wander in for a drink.
The text tells us he looked at this specific building and saw a resentful aura shooting up to the sky.
The use of the resentful aura is a profound narrative device. While Magistrate Feng is relying on falsified documents and forced confessions to understand the world, Jigong perceives the physical manifestation of karmic imbalance.
The aura represents the lingering energy of intense greed, cruelty, or unaddressed injustice.
Jigong is operating on a sensory level that bypasses human bureaucracy entirely. He can literally see where justice is needed.
He walks into the tavern, and the owner instantly validates that aura. He is described as a man in his 40s with horizontal flesh on his face.
Which means a face deeply lined by a lifetime of scowling and aggression.
And fierce eyes. So Jigong asks to borrow a brush and ink. The owner hands it over, clearly confused. Jigong writes a few mysterious characters on the palm of his own hand, sits down, and orders a meal.
And as he sits there, the text delivers a brilliant meta-narrative sequence.
The gossip scene. It is a masterful exploration of how myth and history are constructed in real time.
The patrons at the next table are aggressively debating the events that literally just happened down the street regarding the capture of Hua Yanlong.
One patron claims he had a front row seat. He describes Jigong not as the ragged man who actually caught the thief, but as a towering, majestic giant.
He claims Jigong was a 10-foot-tall arhat with a red face, wearing a pristine yellow robe, carrying 108 glowing prayer beads.
He invents an entire mythological aesthetic to explain the magic he witnessed. Meanwhile, another patron at the same table points a finger directly at the actual Jigong, who is sitting right there looking like a filthy beggar.
And says, "Don't talk nonsense." The real monk is a drunken madman covered in grease and mud in a torn robe, exactly like that guy over there.
The author is using this dialogue to deconstruct religious and historical narratives, right?
Absolutely. The first patron is incapable of reconciling profound power with physical poverty. To his mind, a miracle worker must look majestic.
He alters his own memory to fit his theological expectations.
And the second patron correctly identifies the physical reality, yet utterly fails to recognize that the divine presence he is describing is sitting 3 feet away from him.
Both men are blind, just in different ways.
So Jigong decides to dismantle their illusions.
He leans over to the second patron and asks, "You know him. When did you meet him?"
The patron, trying to look important, claims they met last spring in Linen and even shared a meal.
Jigong casually annihilates the lie. He says, "Last spring, weren't you doing business in Zhenjiang Prefecture?"
It's a terrifyingly casual display of omniscience. The patron is paralyzed, wondering how a random beggar could possibly know his travel itinerary from a year ago.
Jigong isn't doing this to brag. He does it to puncture the patron's ego.
He reminds them that their perception of reality is fundamentally flawed, and their attempts to insert themselves into the narrative are transparent to the divine.
But the philosophical debate inside the tavern is interrupted by a stark economic reality outside. A man is shouting in the street trying to sell a good fat dog.
Jigong investigates, and the seller is a picture of absolute desperation.
He explains his situation. His family is starving. His mother is critically ill. They have pawned every single item they own, and this dog is their final asset.
He is begging for someone to buy it for 1,000 cash, 1 diao, so he can afford life-saving medicine for his mother. He begs Jigong to do a good deed.
This moment violently shifts the thematic focus from the elite corruption of the magistrate's court to the brutal economic reality of the lower classes.
Recall the constables obsessing over a 1,200 silver bounty. Here, a man's entire world, his mother's survival, hinges on 1,000 copper cash. The disparity is staggering.
The interaction turns into a reverse auction that breaks all rules of commerce. The man asks for 1,000. Jigong stares at him and says, "Don't want it."
The man, panicking, drops it to 900. Don't want it.
He drops it to 800. Don't want it. The man thinks he has a live customer, so he desperately drops the price to 700, then finally to 600.
Jigong continually refuses. The bystanders start getting angry, asking Jigong what he's actually willing to pay.
Jigong tells the desperate son, "I'll offer you a price, but you can't get angry." The man agrees. And Jigong says, "I'll give you 5,000 cash. 5 diao."
It completely upends the power dynamic of the transaction. The man is offering a discount born of desperation, and Jigong forces an absurd premium upon him.
I have to question the logic here, though. Why overpay by such a massive margin? If the medicine costs 1,000 cash, giving him 5,000 seems excessive.
It does seem that way on the surface.
Is Jigong just playing God with the local economy? And more importantly, monks are bound by vows of poverty. Whose wallet is he planning to use to balance this karmic scale?
That is the pivotal question. Jigong is not acting as a charity. He is acting as an agent of karmic redistribution.
Oh, I see.
He perceived the resentful aura radiating from the tavern. He now perceives the desperate filial piety of the son. He uses the transaction to forcibly move wealth from the hoarder, the wicked tavern owner who generates the resentful aura, to the victim of economic despair.
He turns the extortion into an art form. The desperate seller agrees to the 5,000. Jigong pivots to the fierce, aggressive tavern owner and simply says, since he sold it, you pay him the 5,000 cash.
The owner is stunned. He yells, "Why on earth would I pay 5,000 for that?"
And Jigong doesn't argue. He just raises his hand and says, look, based on this.
He reveals the palm of his hand, displaying the mysterious characters he wrote with the borrowed brush earlier.
The psychological impact is immediate and total. The aggressive, fierce tavern owner, a man who clearly dominates his local environment, takes one look at the ink on Jigong's palm and his entire reality collapses.
He is paralyzed with terror.
He immediately stammers, I'll give the 5,000. He physically hands over a small fortune to a stranger to save a sick woman he doesn't know, entirely out of fear of what he saw in that hand.